Before we begin, I've actually got the honor to announce some pretty cool news. We are announcing we've got new inductees to the University of Miami Sports Hall of Fame, and among the inductees, there's 3 former Hurricanes. Jay Brophy, the linebacker, Philip Buchanan, defensive back and kick returner, and Kevin Williams, wide receiver and kick returner. And that's obviously a great honor to anytime anyone calls you a Hall of Famer anywhere, but certainly at the University of Miami as a football player, you're in high company with those guys. So congratulations to all 3 of those guys, and I believe the rest of the inductees are included in your release. As for the current Miami Hurricanes, we're excited to be in game week. This is our 10th week of football practice. We've only played 4 games. We've had a very unusual schedule with the 2 byes, and there's been a feeling of just waiting to get this thing going and get into a routine, and the routine is finally here. We're excited. Obviously, we know that the next 6 weeks we play 6 games in our league, 4 of those games in our stadium. Obviously, the next 3 at home, starting with Virginia Tech this Saturday at 3:30. Expecting a great atmosphere. Should be a great game. And we're, like I said, we're just excited to go and play. We probably had our best practice of the year yesterday. Guys came back. We gave them a couple days off. Guys came back with high energy. And you can just feel their sense of urgency that it's time, and we understand that the meat of the league schedule is finally upon us. So with that, I'll open it for questions.
Hey, Manny, I guess health-wise, obviously you had a couple guys coming back. Mark Pope, where's he at in that comeback? And I guess, could you expect him to play on Saturday?
Mark practiced yesterday, caught a deep post, which I thought was great for his confidence. So right now we are probably, as healthy as we've been. So, Nesta Silvera's been out there practicing, so it's been good to have those guys back.
Manny, wanted to ask you about Jaron Williams, and obviously he's done a good job of protecting the football. How do you feel like he's done with the balance, towing the line, I guess, of protecting the football and also maybe looking to be aggressive when the time calls for it?
Well, he's also had to throw in every game that's probably been a dropped interception too. So there's that element also. But yes, he has not thrown the interception yet, which has been fantastic. A big part of why he was named the number 1 guy. In this offense, it's just all about the decision making. Remember, we talked about one of the 3 elements that would allow us to choose a starting quarterback. So if you're asking in terms of taking shots and his instinct for pushing the ball down the field, part of that's coming. But then here's the flip side of that: is now, am I trying to see the guy open, and that extra pad of the football is what results in a sack, right? So to me, part of that is trusting the read, whether it's a top-down read where potentially this is a shot play. Instead of waiting for the shot to come open, that anticipation, okay, the safety grab, the inside route, get it to the outside guy. And those are the things that I think just come with experience. So obviously Jaron is very accurate, as we've seen with his completion percentage. And so I think in terms of the grand scheme of the offense, no matter what pass concept we have, it's just a matter of just getting that rhythm and getting that count in his head to be as quick as possible.
Manny, you said the team has practiced well and responded well since those couple of lackluster practices. Do you think it's something that lack of competition, something that's behind the team? Is it something you're always guarding against? And do you especially have to guard against it when we just saw what Virginia Tech looked like last week, and making sure the guys don't, play down to an opponent?
Well, number one, this is not a Miami-specific problem. I think every coach in the country is always guarding against their guys competing, and all you have to do is watch college football this past Saturday. It is hard to be the same team every week. And that's why you see all of a sudden a game that was not supposed to be competitive turns into very competitive. And it's just, you say, well, this team played like this to that team, which means when these 2 teams play, then this of course should happen. And we know that never happens. That's exactly why college football is honestly quite fun to follow. It's a little nerve-wracking for the coaches that coach it. But so I think it's about always getting your guys to compete at their highest level every week. And again, when you say all your guys, you're trying to get as many guys to their top form as possible on any given Saturday, and that's really been the challenge. So I don't think you ever sit there with your arms folded and say, I think we've got to figure it out. I think we understand, how to compete. That's something that is a constant grind to get your guys, because human nature, again, is to what? Human nature is to just relax and just, think something's easy. And we know if anytime we think something's easy, usually something bad happens.
Manny, just a couple quick ones on the offensive line. Obviously, you changed mid-game against Central Michigan. Do you kind of have an alignment you kind of know you're going to be using this weekend? And just with a guy like Ja'Kai, who's obviously a freshman, how do you kind of balance, you don't want him to lose confidence, obviously, getting benched mid-game with just needing to have the best 5 out there?
Well, there was also an ankle issue that Ja'Kai was dealing with in the Central game, so that wasn't necessarily, I don't know if I would categorize that as a benching. Every week you're trying to get your best team to the field, right? So what we've been able to do during the bye week, and we're still doing now, is getting our guys to play as good as they can to give us the best lineup. I think to your point, you're exactly right in terms of confidence, because we have very young football players. It's funny, we were watching 2016 Miami Virginia Tech, and I'm watching Shaq and Pickney run around out there, and you see them do a lot of really good things, but you see them. They were humble that day. And like we all were on defense. We had a lot of freshmen out there that were really struggling, and Virginia Tech, really stick it to us that night in Blacksburg. That's all part of the learning process. But you know what? They're a lot better for that now, and you've seen that in their development. So whether it's Ja'Kai or Zion, and again, we can't forget that DJ Scaife is a sophomore. You've got Corey Gaynor. Still this is his 3rd or 4th or 5th, I guess, ever start. So you've got some inexperienced guys. So our job is to continue to get them better and improve them. But let's take confidence from this. Wow, did you see the way they ran the ball against North Carolina? Did you watch North Carolina's defense this weekend? All of a sudden, it's like, well, geez. But wait, no, but they played like this against Central Michigan. Well, that must be who they are. Well, wait a minute. Do we get to choose who they are? Are they the team that ran the ball over North Carolina that Clemson struggled to do this past weekend, or are they the team that struggled to run the ball at all against Central Michigan? The reality is they're none of those people. They're the people that are going to show up this Saturday. And our job as coaches is to get the version that shows up this Saturday to be as good as it can possibly be.
Hey, Manny, I know we live like in a microwave society. Everybody wants instant gratification. But with players and the transfer portal and so forth, I know you guys obviously had a couple guys that have decided to leave since the end of fall camp. But how do you sort of deal with kids who maybe aren't happy with playing time, who come to you and say, Coach, I want to play more? Is it a meeting that happens a lot more often than when you first got into this business? And I guess what's sort of your approach when kids do complain about playing time?
I don't think it's anything more than what's happened in the past. Look, you're allowed to have 85 guys on scholarship, and only 11 can play at a time. There's no other sport that has a dynamic where you've got 74 watching 11 play. And everybody, if you go back to when you played sports as a 6-year-old, everybody wants to play. I think the most important thing as coaches is to be honest and upfront in terms of why they're not playing, what things that they can do to improve their performance to get more playing time. And whether it's showing them on tape, like, look here, this is the difference, or this is why we grade every practice like it's a game. So whether it's missed assignments or a lack of effort or technique errors, so you can sit there and say, well, right here, you've got 7 more technique errors than the guy that's playing. You control this, and then ideally, what you really want as a coach, and what we're trying to get to, and we're improving in this regard, is more guys that can play, right? And let's stop worrying about it. Look, it may not be a matter who the starter is, but let's push more guys onto the field, and that's something that we're trying to get done at all spots, so you don't have to play. So we may have offensive line don't have to play 75 snaps. One guy's getting himself to a point where he can go in and take 20 snaps. Guess what that means we can do? We can play harder. And again, that's what always separates the teams at the top in college football have it too deep that can come at you with no drop off. Miami's had that in the past. You look at all the traditional powers. That's usually how it's happened. We have to get to that. We have to recruit to that. We also have to develop our guys to get to that point. So that's all part of it, and it's never not been a part of coaching football. Back here, yeah.
Manny, I wanted to ask you about Jalen Phillips. Just what is he able to do right now, and what maybe first impression has he made with what he is able to do?
Jalen right now is just working out, and the biggest impression, obviously, with Jalen is just seeing his body transform. Just he just looks at his arms now. He's like, holy cow, he's not the same guy as he was when he showed up on campus. So that, and just incorporating into our locker room, on campus and going to class, just those type of things. So that's really what he's been about this fall.
Do you think he will be able to practice at some point this season?
No, he cannot practice this season.
You mentioned that a while back about analytics, how you study numbers more. I'm curious how that process works. Do you have a certain coach who's sort of maybe in charge of that comes to you with those numbers? Do you do it yourself, your research, I guess? And what numbers really stand out to you the most, the ones you think that are maybe most true to maybe the information you're looking for?
in terms of like
Studying the analytics and the numbers, I guess, which ones do you sort of focus on and say, okay, this gives me a good measuring stick of maybe what a team's really good at or what you guys are good at and so forth?
Okay, yeah. So like in terms of like winning and losing and things like that. Yeah. I mean, there's always there could be super simple ones like yards per rush attempt. When you take away sacks, it can be points per possession inside the red zone. Points of available, the percentage of available points scored inside the red zone. The hidden game of points off of turnovers. The idea of hidden yardage back and forth in terms of field position. Times drives. In terms of how that creates the hidden yardage. So. Everything we do is we're trying to win a football game, right? So what we're trying to anytime we're trying to mine data, we're trying to mine data in terms of what wins. You're trying to find the best correlations between what wins football games. What happens on a drive when there's a negative play? Why is it important to us to lead the nation in tackle for loss? What happens on a drive when there's a sack? What is the scoring percentage on a drive when there is a negative play versus when there's not a negative play, right? And then you can go to the defense, for example, and say, wow, that's really, really important to create negative plays because historically, people score a blankety-blank percent without one, and then any negative play on a drive, and that number jumps to boop, oh, wow, okay, I get it, And not that it stands to reason that obviously plays that go backwards are better than plays that go forward, but still when you see the data, you see the numbers, and that might make the difference in the way that cornerback sets an edge, or the way the linebackers get upfield when they're pursuing an outside run. So that's just one example. But that's but there's different things. There's game strategy in terms of we talk about fourth down strategy, and then there's just in terms of what a team does. So that's well they like this personnel group, they like this formation, they like to play this coverage. On third down to 3 to 6, they're going to blitz this amount of time. On third down and 7 to 10, they're going to blitz that amount of time. So those are the things that always go in. The coaches always mind the numbers. At the beginning part of the week, and that's how you formulate your game plan.
And who kind of handles that for you guys, or I guess, how big of a part do you have in
that? Well,
that?
that's always started at the that's something that graduate assistants and quality control coaches have always done, and then obviously we have these computers that you enter all the data and when it spits out just all this information, and like any good teacher, what you have to do is you have to take this mounds of information, and the players can't handle all that information because they got to go play in a game, and you try to mine out the things that they need to know, right? Hey, Mike Pickney, in this backfield set, you can expect this run or that run. Jaron Williams, when their linebackers line up in such a way, this is a clue for this blitz. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you try to help your guys out. And sometimes good teams have good tendencies, right? Sometimes they have a tendency of doing something because they're good at it and they don't care that that's all part of it too. So it's not necessarily, they're not computer robots. You don't just, type in the right thing and you're guaranteed success.
Manny, talk a little bit about Virginia Tech. We've watched them, obviously. There's times they've struggled. But in a lot of ways, they kind of mirror what you're going through here and trying to get this program back to the level where you want to see it. That was a championship program.
Right. That
was winning the ACC. And, now they're struggling a little bit. So what do you see when you watch them? And does it kind of like epitomize what you're talking about in college football and trying to maintain a standard?
There's no doubt. Inside this building, Virginia Tech's a program that we have a lot of respect for. And let's actually start on the defense side of the ball with Bud Foster. He's obviously retiring after the season, a guy that, I can't think of anybody in this profession that doesn't have the utmost respect. One of the best ever, coordinated defense. And what of his defense has always been known for, playing extraordinarily hard, extremely tough, physical, again, obviously the lunch pail mentality that they've prided themselves on. They've had an identity there, right? So that anytime you're going up against one of his crews, and even if you look at the game this past Friday, Duke had 5 yards after the first quarter. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's like us with young teams trying to find consistency. So we have a lot of respect for what Bud does on that side of the ball. And then Justin Fuente on the offensive side of the ball, when he came to this league, has brought, in my mind, as creative an offense in terms of, let's just talk about the run game. You've got to deal with 2-back runs, you have to deal with 1-back runs, you have to do an assortment of motions. There will be designed quarterback runs, there'll be quarterback read runs. There's a lot that they present to you. And so it's a game where if you're not completely locked in, if you're not really focused on what your responsibility is on both sides of the ball, you have a chance to look silly. So it is, again, I cannot stress it enough. It is very hard to watch a team a week ago and say that's the team that's going to show up this Saturday, because generally speaking, almost the opposite is more often true in college football, and we expect to see their best effort this Saturday. I'm more concerned about our best efforts and getting ourselves right to present the best version of ourselves on Saturday.
Coach, I've seen DeAndre Water on the sidelines at games. Just what is his status? What is he up to?
Yeah, DeAndre's finishing out in our program. You know, he's medically disqualified from playing, but he's doing amazing. He's working towards completing his degree here at the University of Miami.
Manny, not sure if you saw, but the governor of California signed the Fair Pay to Play Act. I don't know if you just had any reaction to that, what it could mean, obviously, going forward for college sports.
I'm sure we'll find out. That's something that obviously the people with a lot more say in that, more so than me, that aren't worried about how to stop Virginia Tech and score on Virginia Tech. They'll spend a lot more time thinking about that, and then I'm sure at our level we'll figure out where all that goes. So there's not a whole lot I can say about it at this point till we kind of get told how that changes our world. Okay, thank you all so much.